tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone. So we are going to conduct our class on Patisambhida Magga, and we have moved into the ninth wisdom, which is called Munchithukammyatha Patisankha Santhitthana Pañana sankhārupekkāsu Ñāna. So if you recap what we have done so far, we started from the Suthamaya Nana, the learnedness, the wisdom associated with what we have studied. Then based on that, one adopts these practices into their life, into his life or her life, and starts practicing a virtuous life, adopting a virtuous conduct, and the wisdom involved associated with that conduct is called Sīlamaya Ñāna. Then based on Sīla, having it as a ground, one develops concentration, and the wisdom which is associating or which is arising together with the access and absorption concentrations are called Samadhi Bhavanamaya Ñāna. And based on that Samadhi Bhavanamaya Ñāna, one discerns the Nama Rupa, dissects them, and starts to know their causes, which is the knowing, investigating the causes of those Nama and Rupa, which is called Paccaya Pariggahe Ñāna. Then all those Nama Rupas are classified into groups such as past, present, future, subtle, gross, excellent and inferior, superior, inferior, and then excellent and low, and then they are contemplated as impermanent, suffering and non-self. That's done by the Sammasana Ñāna. Then of those Nama Rupas, the yogi starts to see the rising and falling, and that wisdom which sees the rising and falling in terms of momentary rising and falling, and also conditional rising and falling, or vanishing, I would say. Then wisdom, that wisdom is called Udayabbeya Ñāna. Then after Udayabbeya, the yogi naturally tends to see the vanishing of the sankharas, which is happening rapidly, and his mind inclines or focuses more on the vanishing aspect, and he develops the Bhanganupassana Ñāna, and as an extra wisdom, he or she also observes the vanishing of the wisdom which saw the vanishing of the sankharas. So that wisdom is called Ārammanam Patisankha Bhanganupassane Paññā Vipassane Ñāna. Then when someone sees the vanishing of the realities constantly, he or she, the yogi, starts to feel the sankharas as fearful, something to be afraid of, and that's the Bhayatupatthana Ñāna. And then sees there is no refuge in the sankharas, and sees all the defects, Ādīnava Ñāna, and then this would leads to the dispassion, disenchantment, that is called Nibbida-anupassana Ñāna. So when Nibbida is developed, the dispassion, detachment is developed, then comes the three wisdoms that we are going to discuss today. Munchithukammyatha, we can take it a bit further. Munchithukammyatha Patisankha Santhitthana Paññā sankhārupekkāsu Ñāna. Right. So these are three forms of the same wisdom actually. Sankhārupekkāsu Ñāna. Now these are the three forms. Munchithukammyatha Patisankha Santhitthana. How is Munchithukammyatha form? Munchithukammyatha This is formed as Munchithukammo. Munchithukammo. Munchithukammo means the one who is desirous to abandon, or one who is desirous to be released. So we can have two meanings for this. To abandon, to discard, or to be released. Be released. So Munchithukammo means a desire. The person, one who is desirous, one who has a desire. So Munchithukammo means a person who wants to discard or who wants to be released from. So what does he want to discard? So from what does he want to be released from? Those are the 5 factors which were called Uppada, the arising. Then we have Pavatta. It's in the handout actually. Uppada Pavatta. Pavatta, that the existence. Then Nimitta. These are the conditioned realities. Then Ayuhana, Kamma, Chetana. Then Patisandhi. Rebirth. Rebirth. So this is the birth that we have in this life. Then Pavatta is the existence. And what are existing? They are the sankharas. What are existing? The sankharas, nimitta. Ayuhana, accumulating new karma, and a birth. So these 5 encompasses or completes, constitutes the entire samsara actually. Since when a new rebirth is happening, that means another upada, and there would have again pavatta, nimitta, again accumulation sankhara, ayuhana, and another birth. So normally these 5 factors can be elaborated into 15, in Vipassana practice, but even just focusing on these 5 would suffice for one's practice. Now, these were the same 5 that one became dispassionate towards. One was detached from these 5. These are the 5 that actually we consider as our life. Instead of saying it's a combination of nama and rupa, at this level, from after seeing the rising and falling and knowing that the sankharas are vanishing and the mind which observes the sankharas are also vanishing, having known that, because till the Bhanganupassana, he is seeing the, like he's preparing the groundwork for the Vipassana practice. He's seeing the nama and rupa, and see their conditions, nama and rupa, how they have been conditioned by nama and rupa, and then how this is existing, and see the rising and falling of these nama and rupa, and then also sees the vanishing of the nama which observes them. Now, after knowing all this, doing this groundwork, one can easily understand or contemplate, can know very thoroughly that these nama rupas are anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Right? So this is the contemplation. This is what we have to consider about the nama and rupa. Now, from the Bhayatupattana onwards, he is now considering about the entire existence as a sort of a philosophical idea. He should be aware of that, how the birth is. Now he knows the entire mechanism. So this is the groundwork. So in Vipassana meditation, Bhanganupassana is sort of a culmination. Now there's nothing to do, new things to do. What he is supposed to do is what he has known or studied or understood that, from the Vipassana wisdoms that till Bhanganupassana. He now applies his Vipassana into the entire existence. So he sees the rising, a birth of some being as suffering or as dreadful, as something that should not be admired. And then the existence, how these nama rupas are existing and happening, the stream. The nimitta, all the conditioned realities that are existing in this, happening in this existence. and then the accumulation of karma, ayuhana, that is the cause for the new rebirth, and then another rebirth. So now his contemplation goes or spreads into this entire existence. So intellectually he is philosophizing what he has known and leading his contemplation into this broader arena, So that's why normally, for example, when I'm preaching Vipassana, I don't really admire or I don't really emphasize on just focusing on the objects that you encounter and keep on doing the Vipassana. It can be done, that's not an issue. But actually, from the Bhayatupaṭṭhāna onwards, you should be focusing on various aspects. You should be focusing on your birth, on your rebirth, accumulation of karma, how the existence is happening, and then the sankharas. So when we are focusing on the realities that we encounter only, we are just focusing on the nimitta, that the sankharas that we are encountering. But then we forget about all the other four aspects which covers the entire, because when we are getting dispassion, we are being dispassion, or when we are eradicating the defilements, we eradicate to the entire existence. So now, with the wisdom, till Bhanga-anupassana, including the Bhanga-anupassana, we now understand whether whatever conditioned reality we are focusing at, we are considering either about the samsara as a whole, or about conditioned realities in a specific life, or a specific realm, or a specific incident, or the act of accumulating new karmas for another rebirth. Whatever it is, we can contemplate them as anicca, dukkha and anatta. So with this base knowledge or understanding about the three universal characteristics, we are extending our observation scope into this bigger arena. Then he sees all these five factors: birth, existence, conditioned realities, accumulation of new karma, and the new rebirth, all as dangerous. So that's how Bhayatupaṭṭhāna Ñāna arises. Then he considers that they are out of refuge. No one can support or help them in any of these places. None of the sankharas who are found in these aspects of birth, existence, accumulation, conditioned realities, or new rebirth, none of them, anyone or any sankhara, doesn't have any refuge at any place. And no one can support them, no one can protect them. And there's no remedy or no medicine that we can take to be free from the dangers as long as within this sankhara realm. So these are the five. These five things encompasses the entire existence. Now, and he sees that these five things are full of danger, and there's no refuge in it. So we have to consider them as the world, the existence, the five factors: upada, birth in this life, then pavatta, the existence, nimitta, sankharas, ayuhana, accumulation of karma, then patisandhi. So this shows that, okay, a new birth has happened in this life, and sankharas are existing. These are the sankharas, and the existence is happening, the continuation, and karma is accumulated, kamma. These are nama and rupa which are happening, nama and rupa, and the karma force is accumulated. In order to get the karma force, there have to be kilesas. So we have to bring it into this context, because otherwise there cannot be. Ayuhana itself encompasses craving and the intention for do something. The chetana is a combination of chetana and karma, and then this would bring forth another rebirth. Right? So when this ends, another rebirth arises. Another rebirth. So this is so then it also gives the idea, if a new rebirth, now this same rebirth also had something prior. also had something prior. So we don't need to worry about the past much because it has already happened, but still contemplation can lead. So this shows that this is the entire realm. Entire realm. So we are stuck here. So these 5 cases or factors shows the realm we are within, in which we are within. So now he sees the entire structure, every place in this existence. The rebirth, it may be the birth, rebirth, or may be the future, like the existence, the sankharas, whatever happened in the past, present, future, all are dangerous. They didn't have any and also they didn't have any refuge. They are helpless. And so he becomes dispassionate towards them. So now he wants to get rid of them. He wants to get rid of them. He wants to get out of it. And that's the wisdom which is called Munchithukammyatha. The desire is to get out of this world or to abandon this. There are 2 ways you can define this. Visuddhimagga prefers releasing. You are getting free. You are going out of this realm. Patisambhida Magga recognize both the definitions and say abandoning, he prefers abandoning much. We are abandoning all the birth, nama rupas and everything. So abandoning. So giving up. That's also in another way telling that you are freed from. Now, for example, if I give up something, that means I became free from that. And you give up them by eradicating the defilements, because what was going to happen, because the entire this samsara has no limit, so it will be continuing. So this is like a sort of a trap, like we are trapped in it. So even from the backside, from the past, still it was there. So this is this thing. So we are within this conditioned realm, and he becomes desirous to either to get out of it or to eradicate them, or to abandon them. Then what happens? He starts to investigate. He starts to investigate what should be done, what has to be done, what should be done in order to be free from that. That for that one needs to keep on contemplating the 3 characteristics. Why we are stuck here is because of kamma and kilesa. Kamma and kilesa. And kilesa is the most important factor, because even karma is accumulated because of kilesa. So in order to be released from this, in order to abandon them, we have to abandon these kilesas, or to destroy these kilesa. That's what matters here. That's what matters here. Now, then, in order to get rid of kilesa, because kilesas are all rooted in one defilement, that is avidya. This is the root cause of all defilements. Avidya is the root cause. Now, this avidya, as long as avidya is prevailing, as long as avidya is present, the kilesas would remain, and we will never be free from this round of existence. We will never be free from this round of existence. Now, then, what we are supposed to do is to eradicate them. So, what is the avidya? What is avidya? Is ignorance about the reality of these conditioned of this conditioned world. So, in order to get rid of avidya, one needs to see the reality. What is the reality? All the conditioned realities are impermanent, suffering, and non-self. Impermanent, suffering, and non-self. So one has to see that. One has to observe that. So he has been doing this so far till even in the Nibbida Ñāna, till he had developed the dispassion. He has been developing this. But now this has to be done with much vigor. Vigorously we have to do. With more effort, with more energy. And a thorough investigation has to happen, because now his desire is to get out of it. So normally we involve in meditation practice when we are really desirous, or when we are really into a particular subject. Whether we are doing samatha practice or sila or studying, when we have that desire, then only we are involved in it. So now this person is desirous to get out of samsara. So strong desire is there. Now what he does is, he's thoroughly investigating the nama rupas. He's thoroughly investigating the nama rupas with a special wisdom which is called Patisankha. Patisankha is investigation. He keeps on investigating nama rupas in order, because avidya is about not knowing the reality. So in order to get rid of avidya, to weaken avidya, to destroy avidya, one has to keep on seeing the true natures, true characteristics of the conditioned realities. So the same practice has to be done with much depth, with much effort. So the vipassana will be repeated and that wisdom is called Patisankha. Patisankha, investigation. Patisankhanupassana we call. When the Patisankha is done, and he starts to see the true natures of the conditioned realities, and this would give up his attachment, because the latent attachment is still there, and also a fear about the sankharas was there. Sometimes unwholesome fear was there, and also there is a dispassion mixed with that, and mixed with fear in the form of a wisdom which was called Nibbidanupassana, and those fear and all would subdue. Because the point what matters here is, now before this there was the Nibbidanupassana Ñāna. Nibbida is dispassion, and Nibbida was preceded by the wisdom of seeing the disadvantages, seeing the adhinava, that's knowing that there is no refuge in the samsara. And this was preceded by the wisdom which saw the dangers, the sankharas as dangerous, or seeing the dangers of this sankhara. Why is that? Sankharas are vanishing instantly, and also the observer, the observing mind is vanishing. So now this foundation led to the dispassion, and the obvious then another way to investigate is, now why this dispassion has come. This dispassion is triggered by the idea of I, which is asmimana, and also which is associated with self-view. So when we have the concept of I, when we see the sankharas are dangerous, the dispassion comes that I will be suffering in these realms. It's I who will be encountering these dangers. It's I who doesn't have a refuge. So even though the concept of I is not dominating in the mind, in the latent level, it's now popping up. It's active. So since its activation now, its influence is seen. So some Mahatheras, such as Redukani Chandavimala Mahatera, suggest that Nibbida Ñāna is a sort of an outcome of the self idea. It's an outcome of the conceit, asmimana. The idea of I is haunting in our mind in the latent level. So one has to put down this idea of I thoroughly to get rid of that emotional aspect. Emotional means that fear aspect in the wisdom. It appears in the form of fear, a wisdom which is appearing in the form of fear. It's not the dread or fear in the unwholesome side, which represents anger. This is pure wisdom, but it appears in the form of fear. So that's how it sees the conditioned realities as dangerous. Then it also saw that there's no refuge, and he sees that everything is helpless, and then develops dispassion towards the sankharas. Now, the underlying influence for these three wisdoms, and also to Munchithukammyatha, which had the desire to get out of it, is self, the idea of self. So in the Patisankhanupassana, when he keeps on doing the thorough investigation of the sankharas, the yogi pays more attention in seeing the non-self nature of these sankharas. In addition to seeing impermanence and suffering, he sees the non-self aspect more thoroughly in various ways. He sees them in generally all the conditioned realities as non-self, in two aspects, in threefold, fourfold way, sixfold way, eightfold way, tenfold way, 12-fold way. So in various ways he investigates the sankharas as non-self to punish, to suppress, to lessen or to weaken this idea of I. Only then that dispassion or the fear which was haunting the person throughout this entire process, because it was not a pleasant patch that he went through from Nibbaitupaṭṭhāna till Munchithukammyatha, because it was a patch that he was seeing all the negativity in the samsara attached to oneself. Self-view was suppressed in the previously, but still its influence is found there. It's haunting in the latent level. So therefore, when this non-selfness is seen and that self-view is going down, so he's seen the dangers, obviously seen the dangers as they are, so that fearful form of sankharas, of the wisdom, subdues. Subdues means it changes and it comes into a more stable level, which is called Santhitthana. Santhitthana means it's very much stable. It's very much stable. Santhitthati. So what does stability implies here? That's being indifferent about the sankharas. Because the person is not getting attached to the sankharas, neither he is afraid of them, neither he sees a great danger in that, because there's no one in the real sense to suffer in samsara. So that's another question that some people ask. If there's no person, if the entire thing is a non-self process, why are you afraid of sankharas? Why are you afraid of doing bad things? Because it's not you who is going to suffer. We know there is something fishy and wrong in it. Is obviously that's not a very good. It seems like a good argument, speaking wise, like in terms of logic, but actually that's not how the sankharas work. Sankharas do have the attributes of self to some extent, because they manifest the capacities to make decisions, to feel something, to recognize something. Unlike AI or artificial intelligence or whatever other material stuff, they possess the intrinsic natures of a self, because when we are defining self, self is something that feels something, it recognizes something, makes decisions. So all these qualities are found in a self, and those qualities are found in nama dhammas. They are found in nama dhammas. So as they are found in nama dhammas, so it's not similar like there's a computer program which is functioning and its outcomes would continue. So there's no issue even it existed or not. No one is bothered because it doesn't have feeling in it. It's just existing. Now even a waterfall is continuously falling. No one is bothered. We are not going to stop it. Even it happens forever. There's no issue. But here in the nama process, nama rupa process, together with defilements and karma, this possesses, this contains some attributes of self. So this is not an advocation of the doctrine of self. It is non-self, because the real essence of a self, the real characteristic of self is a one entity that existed throughout the time, forever or throughout one period. And there's one person who is receiving everything. There's one person. That is an illusion. Elusive idea about the person, about the thing which is receiving such stuff. So that is an illusion. So that's the illusion the Buddha removed by saying anatta, there is no self here. So now the nama rupas do possess characteristics of some selves. So they feel things, they recognize things and so forth. Therefore even there is no self who to receive everything, these nama rupas would suffer in the future, and also that nama rupas, a very interesting point is, even though there is no self, the illusion idea, the illusion will come, the idea, the wrong idea would appear. And the namas would grasp the nama rupas, which are not self, as my or as the self. So there's sort of a jumble here. It's a complex system that is going on. So we should not be comparing it to something like AI or inanimate thing. So there is these attributes in it. There is. So it is very close to a self. That's another point. It's very close to a self in terms of other attributes of feeling, recognizing, doing, making actions, making decisions, knowing, all these are there. So that's why the idea of self comes, and also they are combined, they are working together, these aggregates are working together, functioning properly. Nama and Rupa have a good collaboration, whatever we think we can do physically. So all the manifestation is about a self. Therefore, we cannot just bring the analogy of an inanimate thing and bring an argument and ask why if the water falls, continues, if the computer continues, who cares if there is no self, why do we worry? No, that's not the case here. Now, so now when it comes to the Nibbida Ñāna, why he was afraid, why he saw them as suffering, why he saw them as dreadful, the reason was the idea of I was influencing, like latently influencing the person. So that's why these forms are coming out. Now, therefore, when the idea of self, of person or I is put down, it's put down by the contemplation of non-selfness, then that Nibbida element, the fear, the form of fear that was in manifestation of fear, in the wisdom, the dispassion, all goes down. The difficult patch, the hard patch ends, and he sees sankharas as just non-self entities. And now he comes into a position that he knows sankharas are dreadful, in the very deep inside him knows that there's nothing to be afraid of, as if in the Nibbida, as it happened in the Nibbida level. In the Nibbida level, there was a sort of a struggle, because he was upset and he just wanted to get, he was dispassionate and he saw things as fearful, and he had a desire to get out of samsara. So it was sort of a imbalance, there was some sort of a imbalance there, because there was some emotional manifestation. I better not to use the word emotions. It's pure wisdom going on, but it manifested as some emotional aspects. So when he sees that there's no one to suffer even in the future, now it's very similar to the argument that some brings against Buddhism. If there's no self, why you are worrying? So in the same way, since there's no self, so he's not much means that emotional aspect goes down. He's not utterly worried about it. But at the same time, the wisdom element is still there. Wisdom element is still there. So he knows this possesses all the attributes of a self, except for being one person who is receiving and there's no identity in it. So their existence is a suffering. But there's nothing to be worried as he was in the Nibbida wisdom, because there's no one to receive that. Even it was a wisdom, it was like, oh, it's similar, for example, I will suffer if I will be doing akusalas. So if I recall about akusala, I am going to lose the opportunities and I am going to suffer because of it. So the idea of I is haunting us. Now here in this case, idea of I is fully put down, fully means strongly suppressed. So there is no such a emotional aspect in the wisdom which was found in the Nibbida and Munchithukammyatha levels. But at the same time, he knows that you cannot just let it be, because in future the defilements would come up, and then still these possessors the characteristics of feeling, perception, knowing, decision making, all these attributes are there. So it will be suffering like a self, and also the defilements would come up and grab it as the self and consider it as the self. So whole bunch of suffering is there to come. But inside him knows there's no one is going to suffer, but it has to be abandoned. So there's no attachment towards that, and there's no fear towards the sankharas. And there's no such a emotional sort of imbalance as it was experienced in the phases of Bhayatupattana, Nibbida, Bhayatupattana, Adinava and Nibbida. And Munchithukammyatha. Munchithukammyatha is bordering this Patisankha-anupassana, but still it began from the Nibbida. So I see that all these four wisdoms are little bit sort of unstable in this regard. Patisankha-anupassana is the wisdom which removes that instability and brings the mind into a very strong, solid place, like it's now ready for the actual giving up. It's not desirous, that the desire means he has not given up the desire, is not desirous as he was in the Munchithukammyatha level. It's not dispassionate or worried about the sankharas as it was in the Nibbida, Adinava, Bhayatupattana levels. And is neither attached to them. So it completely shrinks from, withers from, like it withers like a flower on the ground or under the sun. It withers, or it moves away from the sankharas. So, but it's still very stable. It sees, it has a very stable appearance, and it's observing the things as they are. It knows the sankharas as impermanent and suffering and non-self. Is not that much eager, like there's no eager, like desires there. It's not given up because it knows it has to get out of samsara, but it's not over eager like as it happened in the Munchithukammyatha level. So this Santhitthana it indicates the stability. Santhitthana. And that Santhitthana is called the sankhārupekkāsu, equanimity about the conditioned realities. Equanimity about the conditioned realities. So in this, then that is the wisdom. Now what he has to do is he has to continue this Patisankha-anupassana again in this mindset. A mindset of equanimity, equanimous mindset. He should be continuing the Patisankha-anupassana. In the actual sense, this Patisankha-anupassana is the real vipassana. This is the real vipassana. Why is that? Vipassana is the meditation subject that eradicates defilements and free the person from the nama-rupa process of the samsara. Right. So this vipassana would lessen the defilements and finally eradicate with the magga. So in order to do that, the mind has to be very stable. It should not be give away to emotions. It should not be extra desirous. It should not be too much worried. It should not be like, obviously it should not get attached. And it should not be worried in the sense of unwholesome worry. And even in the level of Nibbida, Munchithukammyatha, Bhayatupattana, wisdom in that level. This is though it's a strong wisdom, it's not mature enough to eradicate the defilements. It's not mature enough to eradicate the defilements. So this is the wisdom. When you come to the Patisankha-anupassana, you have overcome all the way, you have gone through the process. But in the process, it's necessary to have the Nibbida levels. Then only the urge comes. The Patisankha-anupassana, which is following Munchithukammyatha, the desire to get out of, is the real vipassana. The energy is there. The real dispassion is there. that have seen the dangers of sankharas. He's not meditating just to satisfy anyone else, to show off, because he sees the problems by himself. Now he has a problem. He wants to solve this and get out of this. Now he's meditating. He's a serious meditator at the moment. Now this Patisangkhanupassana, when he keeps on it, mind becomes stable, Santhitthana at some level. And that wisdom, the Patisangkhanupassana, the Vipassana, Patisangkhanupassana, Vipassana contemplation, which continues at the sankhārupekkā level. Sankhārupekkā is sort of an attainment. You attain through Patisangkhanupassana. It's not a wisdom that you are practicing. It's a state of the mind. And the Patisangkhanupassana done with the sankhārupekkā wisdom, the stability, is what would give the breakthrough. That is the wisdom which can eradicate. That is the wisdom which would pave the path to the Magga. Therefore, the real Vipassana happens at this Patisangkhanupassana level. And the wisdom which follows, it triggers this, is the Munchithukammyatha. And Munchithukammyatha is coming out of Bhayatupatthana, Nibbida, and Adinava and Nibbida wisdoms. So that is what we are discussing today. So it's a short handout which I prepared. Shall I read it? And I shall read it and conclude the lecture. Munchithukkamo is a person, yogi, who is desiring to be free from, to escape from all the conditioned realities. The person who is desirous to discard all the conditioned realities is also called Munchithukkamo. There are two opinions, and which Patisambhida Magga prefers the second, but other one is also a possibility. It's not wrong actually. His nature is called Munchithukammyatha. This is a form of wisdom. The wisdom which investigates is called Patisankha. The act of investigation itself is also called Patisankha. The wisdom which looks or observes indifferently is called Santhitthana. The act of looking indifferently is also called Santhitthana. It's a wisdom that has a proper footing and stability. What have been mentioned about are three forms of wisdom: Munchithukammyatha, Patisangkhanupassana, Patisankha, Santhitthana. So all three of these wisdoms are considered as one. It's like the maturing stage. Now, Bhayatupatthana, yeah. Okay, we'll go with this. Bhayatupatthana, Adinama, okay, then Nibbida. So in this wisdom, Nibbida is the culmination. You read the dispassion. This is the point. This is the height in this phase. So now this would lead to the Santhitthana. Santhitthana is stability of the mind, equanimous mind. And it is attained through investigation, Patisankha. And the prerequisite to Patisankha is why he is doing so, because of Munchithukammyatha. Now he is worried about the Sankhar. Now he is finding a way. So this has, instead of bringing Munchithukammyatha into this segment, the commentators have put it into the other segment. This is the process of stability. The stability is reached here. So now this the immature stage of this process is the Munchithukammyatha. Still it's not stable. Then he investigates and then finally reaches the stability. So with this wisdom comes Anuloma Ñāna and Magga Ñāna, which we'll be discussing later, now in the next week hopefully. So now this is the beginning stage of this. So all these three wisdoms are considered as one, which is called sankhārupekkāsu. Right? Its culmination happens here. It's just a process going on. So you have to take it as one process and culminate. So all wisdoms are taken as one point. as a one form, one reality. Then these all three are considered as one reality, because in order to reach the dispassion, you have to see the things as dangerous, see their refugeless, I would say, then and develop the dispassion. And then it desires to get out of sankhara, and then does the thorough investigation and comes into a very stable level. And so these are very interesting two stages in the vipassana practice. So Bhanganupassana comes before this. So Bhanganupassana is a wisdom which acts as the prerequisite, and that would complete the prerequisites for this advanced vipassana practice. Even this is called the advanced vipassana practice, a higher strong vipassana, but in my opinion, still it's not fully stable. The stability happens here. Now he's capable of eradicating the defilement. So that would be the lecture. And yeah, then Munchithukammyatha is the wisdom which manifests in the form of a desire to abandon 5 factors: Uppada, birth; Pavatta, existence; Nimitta, conditioned formations; Ayuhana, striving for rebirth; and Patisandhi, the rebirth, towards which one developed dispassion with the Nibbida Ñāna. Patisankha is the investigator. So he developed dispassion, now he wants to get out of or abandon that. Patisankha is the investigative wisdom which arises as the means of abandoning those 5 factors. The wisdom which becomes equanimous in the end, having abandoned those factors, is the Santhitthana. Having abandoned means it's not that he has completely abandoned them, or either you have to bring the Magga Ñāna into it. So it's like they have been put down. Now now you are not affected by them. So defilements are thoroughly put down, and the mind is in a very stable form, free from the influence of defilements, in a very free level, so it can function properly and eradicate defilements. So that's at that time mind is so much peaceful and calm. All these are 3 stages of the wisdom which becomes indifferent towards conditioned realities, sankhārupekkāsu Ñāna. Right? So that would be the end of the lecture. So next week we are going to talk about another wisdom, most probably Anuloma Ñāna, and maybe we can extend this also. We'll see how it goes. So may all of this merit helps us to attain the final liberation, and also be a help for the prolongation of the Buddha Sasana. Buddha Sasanam Chirantiktatu, Buddha Sasanam Chirantiktatu, Buddha Sasanam Chirantiktatu, Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu.